I didn't know the rules, didn't know there were things you're not supposed to see, not supposed to feel, not supposed to remember. Didn't know there were places where even silence watches you. But I know now. I know everything, too late. My name is Lena. I was 17 when I first saw them. After my mother died, I was sent to live with my aunt in a small northern village. I don't even want to name it. It doesn't matter. It's not on any map anymore, and I hope it never will be. My aunt wasn't cruel, just tired. She never wanted a teenager in her house, especially one that barely spoke. She made her own tea, locked the doors at night, and didn't ask questions. I didn't mind. I stayed quiet. I walked for hours every day just to feel the air on my skin, just to be away. South of the village, past a line of pine trees, there was an old railway station, abandoned, dead quiet. They said trains used to stop there in the 60s. Now it was just rusted tracks, a broken platform, and a couple of cracked lampposts. I liked it there. It was empty, peaceful. I felt more alive in that dead place than I ever did at home. That's where I first felt it. It was mid-September. Grey sky, cold breeze. I was sitting on the platform's edge, reading, when something shifted behind me. Not a noise, not a touch, just a pressure, like the weight of a stare. I turned. Nothing there. But the feeling didn't leave. From that day on, it started happening more. Every time I passed by that station, every time I walked alone, always at the edge of my vision, a shape, a figure, still, watching. But whenever I looked directly, it vanished. I thought I was imagining things. The first dream came 3 nights later. I was on the platform again. Thick fog, rolling in like milk. I heard footsteps behind me, slow, wet, heavy. And I knew I wasn't supposed to turn around. But I did. I screamed, but no sound came out. I woke up gasping, sweat-soaked and cold. My aunt didn't ask. She never did. The next day I saw it again, near the old water tower this time. A figure, tall, black, arms limp at its sides, face hidden in shadow. It didn't move while I watched. I blinked, and it was gone. Not a person, not a hallucination, something that only exists when you're not looking directly. My aunt's dog, Rex, started acting strange. He refused to go near the station. He growled at corners, barked at walls. One night he tore apart the living room rug, scratching at a patch of shadow beneath the bookshelf. Another night he howled, low and broken, like he'd seen death. The next morning he was gone. No open doors, no sign of escape. My aunt just said, "He left. Smart dog." I was trying to take a selfie at the station to prove to myself I was fine, that I was in control, but in the photo, something stood behind me. Tall, blurred, like it was vibrating out of sync with reality. Its edges bled into the trees. I deleted it, but the shape is burned into my memory. From then on, I kept my eyes down. I stopped turning around. But it didn't help. The figures were getting closer, and I started to understand. I hadn't just seen them, they had seen me. The closer they came, the harder it became to convince myself I was still sane. They weren't just shadows anymore. They had weight, presence, gravity. I didn't hear them, I never did, but I felt them, always behind me, always waiting. It started small. I'd be brushing my teeth, and the mirror would seem slightly off, like it was tilted, or like something behind me was a fraction closer than it should be. Once, I turned the corner in the hallway and saw movement in the reflection, but not in real life. I told myself it was sleep, stress. I even tried talking to my aunt. She just raised an eyebrow and said, "Everyone's got their ghosts, girl. You either outwalk them or they catch up." At school, I started spacing out during class. My hand trembled when I held a pen. Once a girl in my class, Mara, asked if I was okay. I said yes. I lied. A week later, she stopped coming to school. They said she moved away. No one packed her locker. One night I had a dream so vivid I thought I died inside it. I was back at the station, standing where the gravel meets the rails. Fog drifted low, thick and heavy. I could hear breathing behind me, not one, but 2, maybe 3 sources. Deep, slow, steady. They weren't trying to scare me. They were waiting. I felt it like cold on my skin. They wanted me to turn around, and I almost did. I almost gave in. But in the dream, something whispered in my left ear, a voice like dry leaves, turn, and you'll wear your skin forever. I woke up screaming, blood in my mouth where I'd bitten my tongue. I stopped sleeping. I tried to photograph them again. One morning before school, I set my phone camera on video and let it run behind me while I combed my hair. When I checked the recording, it was all normal, until the last 10 seconds. Behind me, in the corner of the screen, a shape emerged from the hallway. No footsteps, no sound, just appeared, not fully formed, like the darkness itself gathered into a body. No face, no light, just height and weight and watching. I dropped my phone. It cracked. I didn't pick it up for hours. That evening, I found muddy footprints in the kitchen. Just one set, bare feet, wet, leading into the pantry, but not out. I locked myself in my room that night and pushed the dresser in front of the door. My aunt didn't comment. The next day, I woke up to find the footprints inside my room, near the window. Window locked. No prints on the sill, just inside. I didn't cry. I just sat there and listened to the silence, to the breathing I could barely hear, just behind the wall. Things started disappearing. My toothbrush, a spoon, one of my shoes, small forgettable things, except I didn't forget. The next time I saw my reflection, I was missing the earring I always wore. I hadn't lost it, but my reflection had. And then came the worst moment yet. I was walking back from the store, taking the forest path near the station, trying to be brave, trying to act like nothing was happening. It was early evening, overcast, everything looked washed out, faded, and then I felt it. Not the usual pressure, not just the stare. This time I felt breath, cold and slow, right behind my ear. I stopped walking, didn't turn, didn't breathe, and then something reached out, a hand, dry and narrow and not quite human, brushed against the back of my neck. I ran, didn't look back, didn't stop until I was inside, behind a locked door. That night, I found a fingerprint-shaped bruise just below my hairline, thin, too long, not mine. I didn't sleep, and I began to understand something terrible. They weren't chasing me. They were following a pattern, a rhythm, a ritual. They were waiting. And soon, they would be done waiting. There's a moment in every horror story where the line gets crossed, the moment when nothing can go back to the way it was. For me, it happened in the hallway mirror. It was early morning. I hadn't slept. My eyes were sunken, skin pale, heartbeat a constant hammer in my ears. I'd just come out of the bathroom and caught my reflection by accident. Just a flicker. But that flicker wasn't me. Not completely. I stood there, frozen, staring into my own eyes. But something was off. The reflection blinked a second too late, and when I leaned forward, it didn't. I reached out, slowly, trembling, and in that instant, the reflection did too, but not with the same hand. I ran. I slammed my door, and I stayed in bed for hours, every light on. That was the day I realized something had started to replace me. I tried to go back to school, pretend I was normal, but people stared. Some whispered. One girl crossed herself as I passed. The substitute teacher, I don't even know her name, stopped mid-sentence when she looked at me, just froze, chalk in hand, staring, and then said, "You poor, poor girl." That was the last day I ever walked into that building. That night, I caught movement in the mirror again, and this time, I didn't see myself. I saw a version of me that was too tall. Its mouth moved like it was trying to say my name, but I couldn't hear it. Its eyes were black, not shadowed, not empty, black. The mirror cracked down the center without being touched. After that, every reflective surface in the house started to distort. Water, glass, even the metal on the toaster. I stopped looking. I started wearing a hood, even indoors. Not to hide, but so I wouldn't see. And then the disappearances began. 3 kids from the village, gone in 1 week, posters went up, news trucks came and left. Nothing ever found. My aunt said nothing, but one night I heard her whispering in her room. She saw them, she brought them. I thought she meant me. Now I'm not sure she didn't mean herself. One morning I found a note on my bed, old paper, brown and brittle, ink scrawled like it came from another century. Do not turn around. Not in the mirror, not in the dark, not when it's silent, not when it's calling your name. They only live in the spaces you open for them. It wasn't signed. I didn't tell anyone. I burned it in the sink, but I didn't forget. The tipping point came at sunset. I was walking back from the store. The sky was streaked red and gold. I tried to take a new path, away from the station. Didn't matter. The air still felt the same. Wrong. Somewhere between 2 old oak trees, I heard my name whispered. Not loudly, not cruelly, just softly, like a parent waking a sleeping child. Lena! I froze, and I did what every part of me screamed not to do. I turned around. There was nothing there. At first. Then, the trees around me seemed to stretch, the shadows growing longer than the sun allowed. And out of one of those shadows, something stepped forward. Not walking, not moving, it just became. It looked like me, but its smile was crooked. Its eyes didn't blink. Its skin was too smooth, it didn't breathe. I tried to scream, but my voice caught in my throat like a stone. Then it took a step toward me, and I felt my own body take a step back, without my control. It was like watching myself retreat while something else moved in. I woke up hours later on the kitchen floor. I had no memory of how I got home. My feet were wet, there was mud on the stairs, and when I looked in the mirror above the sink, there was nothing there, no reflection, just emptiness. Not blackness, just blank, like I'd been erased. And then, for the first time, I felt it inside me. Something settling, something learning how to wear me. I stopped recognizing myself. It wasn't sudden. It crept in like a slow infection, subtle, quiet. I would catch glimpses of myself in door handles, black windows, puddles. And every time, something was off. My head would tilt when I didn't. My lips would move while mine stayed still. It wasn't copying me anymore. It was practicing. I began writing things down, notes, warnings, even full pages describing what I felt. But the next day, the pages would be blank, the ink gone, or replaced with drawings, crude black scribbles, always of the same figure, tall, faceless, arms hanging low. Sometimes the figure had my eyes, other times it had no face at all. I tried to run, not far, just a town over. I packed a bag, waited until my aunt fell asleep, and walked to the highway. Didn't take my phone, didn't tell anyone. But when I got there, when I stood at the edge of the road, waiting for any car to pass, I realized something horrifying. I didn't know which direction I'd come from. The road was unfamiliar. The sky looked wrong. The trees leaned slightly toward me, like listening. I started walking anyway. I didn't care where. But within 20 minutes, I was back at the station. Not near it, on the platform. I don't remember how I got there. I dropped my bag, I fell to my knees, I screamed, and no one heard. Not because it was empty, but because they were listening instead. From that day on, I never felt alone. Not even for a second. I would lie in bed and feel breathing beside me. I would hear footsteps following mine, perfectly in sync, one beat behind. I tried to eat, but my hunger faded. I tried to cry, but nothing came out. The mirror in my room was now permanently covered. I nailed a blanket over it, but I still saw things in its reflection on the wall. Shadows, shaped like people, but stretched. Sometimes I'd wake up facing the mirror, even though I swore I went to sleep turned away. Then came the night when I found the skin, my own skin, or a copy of it, hanging in my closet, thin, empty as if it had been worn and peeled off. It looked exactly like me, but inside out, mouth open, eyes stitched shut, I didn't scream, I couldn't. Instead, I took it outside, buried it deep behind the shed. But the next morning, it was back in the closet, folded, waiting. I began losing time. 10 minutes here, an hour there. I'd find myself standing in places I hadn't gone, holding things I hadn't picked up. Once, I found a photo in my pocket. Me, standing in the woods. But I hadn't been there in days. Worse, I wasn't alone in the picture. Something stood behind me, a shape, blurred, faceless. But its hand rested gently on my shoulder. I started wearing gloves, long sleeves, scarves, trying to hold myself together, but my skin no longer felt like mine. When I scratched, it didn't hurt. When I bled, the blood was too dark. When I pressed into my arm, the indent stayed for minutes, as if the flesh didn't want to go back. I tried to write a note to someone, anyone, my aunt, the post office, a friend I barely knew, but when I wrote my name, the pen refused to move. Luna, it just hovered, shaking, and I knew, somehow, that I was no longer allowed to write it. Like the thing wearing me hadn't decided if I was still Lena. I no longer dreamt, or maybe the dreams simply weren't mine anymore. I would wake up whispering in a voice that wasn't mine, sometimes in a language I didn't know. Economics in my mouth would taste like soil, dry, cold, heavy, like something that crawled in while I slept. Then one night, it spoke. Not in words, not out loud, it used my voice but from inside my head. You looked, it said, so now we wear you, until you are quiet. That was the night I realized I was no longer alone inside myself, and the part of me that was still me was shrinking. I don't know how much of me is left. There are days, or what I think are days, when I still feel the warmth of my skin, the beat of my heart, but it's getting quieter. Like someone turned the volume down on my life. What speaks, what walks, what smiles in the mirror, that isn't me anymore. Not completely. I started recording things, on paper, on an old cassette recorder I found in the attic. I had to, because I could feel my thoughts slipping through the cracks, the way dreams vanish when you try too hard to remember. I'd wake up and find entire pages missing from my journal, or replaced with things I didn't write. She's almost ready. The skin is soft now. Soon we'll see what we look like on the outside. The writing was in my hand, but the words were not mine. One evening I caught my reflection again, for real this time. No tricks, no flickers, just me. And I looked into my own face, and I didn't recognize it. Not just the expression, not just the blankness in the eyes. It was like my soul had been erased, and something else had been drawn in with unsteady hands. I touched the glass. The reflection didn't move. Not at all. Then it smiled. I think my aunt knew. She never said anything directly. But one night, I heard her outside my door. She whispered, "I'm sorry. I should have warned you. But once they see you, it's already too late." Then silence. In the morning, she was gone. All that remained was a wet footprint on the stairs.